It says you are live. So we got a few seconds before 5:30, but I guess you just have to be careful of what you say about our guests out there, Dave.
I'll try.
Yeah, okay. So we will wait until Apple says it's time to go, and we'll just kind of throw this picture up there. Maybe put that back there. That doesn't work very good. So, all right. Well, it is 5:30. Hey, there we are. Good evening, everyone. Tonight, I am not Chuck. I'm Dax Jammer. I changed my name, but he's Dave. Tonight, we've got a special episode about our recent fantasy draft and the consequences or the good things it could mean for you, since we went ahead and did our first one early this Sunday, and so we're going to recap that and see how bad and how many games I will lose this season. But first, how about this wonderful intro?
One shot, not a future for sure. Go. Yeah, I was building on a lecture. Verses coming daily under pressure. Working on the plot and the scheme. The true style trademark is at the edge of your dreams. I'm talking one shot for the kill. The breeze cut, freeze up, straight dropping the kill. The let's go.
All right. Well, we're already 100% better than we were last week because the video didn't even play last week. So this week we're using a whole new streaming service, StreamYard. We're not sponsored by them, but we're using them. So thank you, StreamYard, in advance, because I know we're just going to have a fantastic show. So how was your week, Dave? Hey, can I interrupt you for a second? Dave, oh, good. Somebody else is saying this. Dave has no audio. Just an FYI. Thank you, Lloyd. I'm not the only one then. I was like, where'd Dave go? No audio for you, buddy. Try and oh, I hear something. There you go. I got you.
Oh, okay. Okay, good.
Right. So we have to.
I didn't click anything, so I don't know
what's
Dave.
Going on. Right?
So
I saw your fingers all over the iPad screen. So how was your week? Let's start there again.
Mute and unmute. Well, I hit mute and unmute, so hopefully maybe that was it.
Okay, good.
It was good. I got to see a little bit of sports this past week and weekend. Got to review. I use several apps on my phone to keep me in kind of track of what's going on during the weekend if I can't catch it on the television. So it was good. My 49ers won despite a horrible showing from Jimmy G that we'll talk about a little bit later. But a win's a win preseason, 2-0. Keep that momentum going despite being week 2 of the preseason. But so that was fun. I got to say most of that game. So it was a good week.
Awesome. I think we're gonna save some sports stuff for later. We have some fantasy football stuff we want to talk about, and I was gonna put up a couple pictures just to kind of let our guests know that you have to get in the spirit of fantasy draft. And so here's Dave with his 49ers gear just a few minutes before draft time. And you didn't draft? No, we'll get into that. Myself was a little bit different this week. I was actually partaking in the great sport of flag football. And there I am pregame with my America gloves. And A little shout out to Primetime Sports League, a great local flag football league, co-ed flag football league. So that's where I was, had my receiver gloves on so I didn't drop my phone and miss the best pick I could make at the time, although touch doesn't work with receiver gloves on. So, so why don't we get into it? It was an interesting draft. I think we'd like to go through and look at some of the report card or whatever, how we all kind of scored in the draft, and then kind of get into some of the detail. You want to lead us?
Yeah, sure. So as you can see, I'm married to a fantasy football genius. We did our draft, and my wife had the 5th pick this year in our league, and she got the best report card. She was the only A out of all 10 teams. Much better than I did myself with a C plus. What was nice about we use Yahoo. Yahoo Fantasy Sports is what we use for our fantasy league, and it's kind of fun. After you do your draft, they send you an email and they put this in your league page. And if you click on that little report card, it will actually tell you why they think you were given the grade that you were given. So some of my notes when I clicked my report card is I took Austin Hooper too high in the draft from where he has been averagely slotted to be picked. And so that knocked me down a bit. Things like that will come in your report card. Also, it will have positives. It will say who they thought was your best pick, who they thought was your best sleeper pick, things like that. There's a lot of things that can, determine this report card. We did have, unfortunately, a few people that auto drafted in our league this year. A couple from Eastern time zone weren't able to get on, I guess, and so that was kind of sad because they're usually good participants. And then, talking a little bit about that, when you're on an auto draft, if you aren't able to get on, you're getting your kicker like the 8th round. So most of us experienced fantasy players know that you're going to take your defenses, your kickers with your last 2 picks usually. Unless you just love a defense, you're going to take them a little bit earlier than that maybe. But, so that will make the report card a little bit lower because they were auto drafted. So they're taking kickers and defenses in round 8 and 9 instead of 14, 15.
So how is it that Whitney got an A?
Well, I think a lot of it was the Kansas City offense was really good last year, and they're ranked to be very good this year. And she has 3 or 4 Kansas City Chiefs on her team. So her report card did say that she was very excited. She was getting her draft. So we were both in our loft at our desks, at our computers, making our picks on Sunday night. We're both geared up. She's a Seahawks fan. She's from Washington, so she looked like a seagull, much prettier than most of them, if not all. And so she was excited, and we had good banter back and forth while we were making our picks. And it came to round 4, and she kept saying, "Should I? I don't know if I should. Oh, I don't know what to do." And I said, "Just take Mahomes if you want Mahomes," because she had discussed that she wanted him again this year, and she really wanted him. And he was about, on the overall list of who was still ranked to pick on the board. He was about 5. And I said, "You better take him because he might not come back to you. So if you want him, get him, and you'll feel good about it." And she did. So she was happy about that. But she got Damian Williams, the running back from Kansas City. She got Tyreek Hill, receiver. She got Sammy Watkins, receiver from Kansas City, and Mahomes. So she has at least 4 Chiefs. So she's going to really be rooting for the Chiefs this year for her fantasy team because she is stacked with them. So.
Yeah, she got Cooper Kupp, and that was one guy I was hoping that would continue to slip because he was on my list at the top. I on my queue, think I'm gonna get him on the way down, and she took him. So that was unfortunate, and because I like that kid, and I got hurt at the end of the season last year, but yeah, that's unfortunate, but yeah, so maybe she'll trade me, for someone.
Oh, I doubt it. Not only is he good, that's a homer pick because he went to Eastern Washington. He's an Eagle, and we're from Eastern Washington, so that really worked out two ways for her. He's a pretty good player, and he's a Eastern Washington boy. So good luck getting him away from her.
So where do you feel like with your picks? I mean, early on, in the middle, where do you think what was your best pick of the day? What was what was your best pick? You feel the best pick of the day for you?
Really, it might have been my first pick, just because I had the 10th pick. So we have 10 people in our league. So the first round, I was the last pick. What's nice about having the 10th pick, I guess, or the first pick, is you get back-to-back picks. So you can really organize your picks so that no one can steal anyone from you really in between your picks. So you get the two that you want in a row. So I didn't mind that. And I was actually really pretty excited that Julio Jones, who's one of the top 3 fantasy receivers, I believe, in the league, he fell all the way to 10. So for me to get Julio Jones at 10, I was pretty happy about that. So yeah, that was really my first pick. Was I felt one of my best picks. And then looking back, I kind of have them written down here, all our rounds and who picked who where. And I was able to get a lot of quarterbacks started going around even before round 7. So I was at the end of round 7 when I picked. So it was my time to wait till the 10th pick of that round. And all the quarterbacks had been picked through basically. And I still had Russell Wilson fall to me. And so I was pretty happy about that, even though I'm a 49er fan. And now I got to root for the Seahawk guy all year. I was pretty happy that I could get a caliber quarterback like Russell Wilson in the 7th when I think there was a few other quarterbacks that might have got picked before me, where I think Russell Wilson may perform better than some guys that got picked before him. So I was glad to see him there when I was one of the later guys picking a quarterback, I guess.
What was a questionable pick for you? Who are you most concerned about this year?
Austin Hooper. So normally I only take one tight end because they have a bye week. Usually there's some tight end that's lower on the radar, and throughout the year they kind of come out of nowhere. Their starts to shine. They start playing, better maybe than you ever seen them before. So there's always some sleeper tight ends that show up, near the mid-season or early on. Then you'll see people start dropping, their fifth receiver, 5th running back to pick up this hot tight end, or something if their tight end's not performing well. So I took Austin Hooper. Really, there's just an elite echelon of tight ends. There's like maybe 4 in the league that you even really want to pick anywhere in the top 5 rounds, anywhere like that. And I didn't have one. Tight ends were kind of like quarterbacks. Tight ends were going. And if I didn't get a decent tight end, I was just basically going to get stuck with whatever was left over for a starter. So I took Austin Hooper a little bit high, but Matt Ryan throws the ball pretty well. Hooper is kind of a red zone target for him in their offense. So I felt okay with that, but I really wished I might have waited a couple more rounds to pick him. And because I wasn't so confident about him, David Njoku for Cleveland, he was available late in the draft, and I think I took him round 13 as my backup tight end, just because Baker Mayfield has a lot of weapons, and I think that kid really has some talent. I think he can make plays, but when you have Landry and Beckham on the outside, and you got Chubb in the backfield, and he's going to be one of the last guys that gets a lot of the defense's attention, and I think he might be open a lot. Or those times when Baker's running around trying to throw the bombs to Landry or Beckham, and if they're not open, I think he'll buy enough time that then, Njoku can get open for some checkdowns and be a good check down guy over the middle when things kind of fall apart also. So Mayfield doesn't have to take as much risk to just try to throw a lob ball downfield. He can actually complete a pass and get some yardage. So that's kind of why I took a second tight end, just because I wasn't so confident about the first one I took.
Well, I can tell you, I don't think that Yahoo thinks much of mine, even though it was a B-. I circled this little thing down here that this is their prediction, I guess, or their motto for me. Is led by a pair of Cardinals, Jedi Mariota, are good enough to barely miss the playoffs. I totally believe that. It was from the beginning. I just wasn't warm and fuzzy about it. I honestly thought that Kamara would fall to me. Nah, Barkley and him gone. So, I took David Johnson, the Cardinals, with my first pick. He didn't have a good year last year, got hurt, but the guy was just a beast the year before. And so I'm hoping with the young quarterback, as an outlet, he's gonna get a lot of work out of the backfield on passes. And I was surprised though on the way back down, I was able to get Antonio Brown. Questionable, but he's David Carr has a lot to prove this year, and David Carr is a passer. So who's he going to pass to? Hopefully, and if Antonio Brown's healthy, this guy will score a lot of points. And then even surprising, I mean, coming all the way back down compared to previous year's drafts, I was able to get Todd Gurley with the third pick. And that's coming back up third round. I mean, I know he's the arthritis and everything, but do you think that he should have been? Do you think he's a better back than really third round?
Yeah, I do. Because they're saying his knee, they're still working on it. There's still some question about it, but they expect him to play and they expect him to be fine. They're just going to kind of not give him so much of a load this year. But the load that he does bring, you can guarantee if they're close to the goal line, he'll be the guy that's in there. And this is fantasy. So, in years past, there's some guys I've drafted late in rounds that are just goal line runners. If they get around the goal line, they got some big old back that can plow through 2-3 yards and can get you 6 points. So I think he will be that guy. Just some of his touches will reduce a little bit. Plus, you have Goff, who's more comfortable in the offense. They're going to let him throw a few more attempts than usual, which will help Gurley. If they have any other running back in their backfield that can pass protect well, then Gurley can take some rest. He'll be more in on just rushing downs, and he won't have to be an every down back. So I think they'll work that in well. I do think that he is better than a third round back. As long as he's healthy, I think, obviously he's a first round pick. So, and it was really interesting to see your picks because I'm in another league. So the league that we play in, Chuck and I, that we drafted for on Sunday, it's not a pay league. It's just for fun. It's with friends and family. It's just bragging rights, basically, and to talk smack throughout the year. I am in a league where I do pay to play. That's the one I focus on a little bit more than all the others. I was the champion last year in that league. So that's the one I really bank everything on. But in that league, it's a keeper league. So the league that I'm in with Chuck that we drafted, it is not a keeper league. We do not get to keep any players from the year before. You have to start all over fresh. But my pay for league is a keeper league. You can keep up to 2 players. And I had Antonio Brown last year, and I had Todd Gurley last year on my championship team. And this year, I believe, as of right now, I am not going to keep either one of them because I have the 7th pick. So our order came out. I have the 7th pick in the draft. I'm not saying that I wouldn't select Todd Gurley or Antonio Brown again. I'm just saying that I am opening up opportunities for myself that if a different player came along that I prefer over them when I get my 7th pick, I at least have that option because in our league, if you keep that keeper, so if you keep 2, your first and second round picks are already done. You don't have any options. So I think I am going to release them just because there is a little bit of question on both of them. But if I get to the second round and AB or Gurley is still available, there's very good odds that I would take one of them in my second round pick. The first round pick I'm leaving open, hoping that, some team that was stacked last year that has 3 or 4 really good guys on it, that person's going to have to give up 2 guys back to the draft pool, and they'll now be available for me to select from. So I'm just kind of doing it to keep my options open, but it doesn't mean I still wouldn't draft Antonio Brown or Todd Gurley in that draft.
It's interesting. And if you guys, if anyone's out there watching and you're thinking about that, I mean, you kind of think of like a Todd Gurley in a third round, maybe, I guess you got to know the guys in your league who, some of them might be a Rams homer. And like an Andrew Perez, if he was in our league, he'd probably be taking Todd Gurley with his first pick and bypassing Saquon Barkley and Kamara. So, but you never know. But I mean, to see how far some of these guys actually fell, it was surprising. So I was kind of happy to pick them up at least. Even coming back in the third round, running backs were already thin, and when you're worried about it, especially if somebody gets hurt, where I'm going to get hurt this year, where I'm going to lose games, probably or weeks on a consistent basis is with my quarterback. My QB1 is Mitch Trubisky. And that was what was left. I think Whitney set a precedent when she picked Mahomes, and then all of a sudden I just see quarterbacks coming off, the list. And so realistically, so I got Trubisky, but then I also late in the 13th round, I picked up Nick Foles. And I you know what? I think he's still got some game. They project to get like 315 points. So that's around 20 points a game. That's not very high. Mitch Trubisky, they're projecting about 24.5 points a game. Not very high, but I just need Mitch to be that 40, 50 point quarterback, like he had a couple of games last year. I need him to do that every game, and then I'll never lose. But we'll see how the week goes, and I may be picking up quarterbacks off the waiver wire week 2.
Well, there's still some available. I was really surprised because sometimes you homer out and you take Mariota, but you didn't this year, so he's still on the board. I was really surprised about some veteran quarterbacks. So the second to last pick in our draft, the 15th round, was Ben Roethlisberger, which I've taken him 10th round, 11th round. I don't know if people just think because AB's gone, Juju Smith-Schuster can't step up like AB, or he doesn't have enough weapons other than Juju. But I was really surprised to see him be the second to last pick in the draft. Phillip Rivers was not picked in our draft. I was kind of surprised to see him not be at least a quarterback number 2, someone's backup. Veteran quarterback, has a ton of weapons, especially if Melvin Gordon's not coming back. Then guess what? They're throwing the ball 85% of the time. They have a good tight end in Hunter Henry if he stays healthy. They have Keenan Allen. They have Mike Williams, who I got in the middle rounds of the draft because he's a big goal line target. He's good in the red zone. So he's got weapons. He's a veteran. He likes to call his own plays. He's going to audible into a pass if he audibles because he trusts himself because he's played for like 17 years or whatever it is. So I was really surprised. So if I need a quarterback, if Russell Wilson gets hurt, or my second quarterback I took was Cam Newton. Cam Newton gets banged up all the time. So if Cam gets banged up early in the season or he's just not hitting, I'll drop him for Phillip Rivers in a heartbeat because I guarantee Phillip Rivers can put up numbers, and he's going to in a lot of games this season.
You know who else fell? And I was surprised. I'm semi-surprised because I think he deserves, I don't really think he deserves a lot of respect, but Tom Brady in the 13th round in our draft.
Yeah.
In 13th round, Tom Brady falls to the 13th round. I'm surprised Steve Devine didn't pick him up. I mean, because he's a homer right there. So
he was auto draft though. That's why he went that far.
Oh.
If Steve wasn't on an auto draft or Kelly wasn't on an auto draft, if they were able to attend, I'm sure he would have went in the top 10 rounds.
Yeah, you're right.
To one of them.
You're right.
Yeah.
So any last thoughts on the draft and maybe we'll move on?
No, it's just exciting. Anyone that's watching or you watch the recording, I'd love to see in the comments what you think about, your drafts coming up. We did ours early so that we could kind of share with you on the show what happened with ours because most of these drafts are going to be coming up, at the end, basically at the end of preseason week 3, which is coming up this week, starts, this week. So this is the week where all the starters play at least usually a half about, if not into the third quarter. They start really working on, their timing. They work on, their stamina, their game stamina. So a lot of starters play deep into the third quarter just so they can get, almost a full game in. of actual, game time before the season starts. So most of these drafts will come in a couple weeks, a couple weekends from now. That's when I'm in 2 other leagues. So I play in 3 leagues. My 2 other drafts are actually not this weekend, but next weekend, next Friday and Saturday. So, I'll have some time, which is nice. Plus, you don't know, anybody could get hurt at any time, but anyone could get hurt this weekend. That's a starter in the first half or something. So just be mindful. If you have a fantasy draft coming up, make sure you're checking the news feeds and seeing if anybody got injured that you planned on picking up. But yeah, it's exciting. I'm glad football is back. I'm very sad when football is not going on. So it's just every year it's just exciting because you never really know what's going to happen other than the Patriots are going to win the AFC East. That's all you know for sure, really, about NFL football.
Well, we should take our break because we should have done it at the beginning because we decided that if we're going to drink beer, we might as well talk about it at the beginning of the show. So, what is your draft of the week?
So my draft of the week is a Pizza Port Chronic Ale. It is an amber beer. Pizza Port is in Carlsbad, California, which is I'd say about 40 minutes south of where I live in Southern California. This is one of my go-to beers. You can see it does have a nice kind of caramely reddish color to it. This is a go-to beer. This is a beer at my local watering hole. Shout out to Uncle Bob's Sports Bar, which is walking distance from my house. They have this and many other delicious beers on draft. But normally when I sit down there, I have this Pizza Port Chronic Ale amber beer, as I do like red and amber beers.
Well, I had to open a new one because for display purposes, I needed a fuller glass of beer because there wasn't much in it. I chose this week a local brewery here in Santa Clarita. The next couple of weeks, I'm going to spotlight the local breweries here. The first one is from Wolf Creek Brewery. They have a restaurant and they have a brewery not far away. And so this week was Howlin' Hef, and they actually, you can find this. We run on a Princess cruise, and they have Wolf Creek Brewing beers on some of the Princess cruise ships. And so we went to Hawaii back in February, and they were serving. I think it was the Desperado IPA that they actually had on board. But they say it's a Bavarian Hef wheat beer, right? And but it's got some unique flavor tones to it that I guess you wouldn't probably find anywhere. And the one that really stands out is it basically says has subtle sweetness of banana, clove, and apricot. But it actually pulls together pretty good. And it's smooth. What I love about a Hef, anytime I get a Hef, if I can't see through the glass, that unfiltered raw wheat beer, that's what I like. Another good one is like Widmer's Hef. It's really unfiltered and because again, I like the darker, the porters, stouts, reds, and really the Hef is about as light as I go, and this isn't very light. So, but cheers to Wolf Creek Brewing and Pizza Port for being our featured beers of the week for our individual selections. And next week, I have already another local brewery that I'm going to be highlighting, and one of the beers of theirs that I really like. So, with that, one of the things before we get into let's do a little bit of a recap of the week before we get into our play it through person of the week. And so the 49ers called. And they left a message for you wanting to know if you're available to play quarterback because they believe that that anyone like you could throw, 1 for 6 for 0 yards and an INT.
Yeah, first drive, INT. I was very impressed with my well-paid starting quarterback who didn't play much last year. I have some 49er friends and family, as you might expect. And thank you, Lloyd, for Yeah, putting that up -1 yard. I saw it. I saw that -1 yard, and yeah, wasn't too happy. Had several texts going back and forth with people in the first quarter about how this buddy better pick it up real quick because he's kind of the key to our season, just like it was the key to our season being over last year when he got hurt. So he looked a little frazzled, which I didn't blame him. I love me some Joe Staley. I love our left tackle. He's our veteran player on the team. I think he'll be in our 49er Hall of Fame. And I just think he looked really slow. Chubb went around him like he was standing still about 3 or 4 times to put pressure on Jimmy G. So I was not happy with our left tackle play, really for most of the game, the start of the game at least. Our offensive line really let pressures come to our whole first half quarterback. So our offensive line needs to do a little bit better. Jimmy G needs to do a lot better. And it looked like he didn't have timing really with the receivers either. So he threw one interception. He actually should have had three. So if you watch the game, he had like 3 or 4 series. One time there was a cornerback that stepped in front of a receiver and dropped an interception. I mean, it was right in his hands. It would have been the second one, I think, on the second series. It was just a little cut-in route or a stop route. And, I mean, the corner's right there, just standing there, and then just cut right in front of the receiver, and he dropped the ball, luckily, or it would have been a pick six, easy. So he actually could have had 2 or 3 interceptions. There was a lot of news earlier in the week that they had a scrimmage, and he threw 5 straight interceptions in one of the practices. And so going into this game, that report was already out there that he had thrown 5 straight interceptions in 5 straight series in practice. And so I don't know if he needs to get out of his head, or I don't know what kind of positive juju they need to give that guy to, but I think right now he could be a little bit of a mental mess. I don't know how you feel about preseason, or our viewers feel about preseason. Is this a big deal? It's just preseason. To me, it's a big deal because when I've seen other starters this preseason, I haven't got to see as much preseason football this year as I would like to. But from what I've seen, when the actual number one starters for teams have been in there, their stats are like 7 for 8 with a touchdown on 2 series or something. They're basically just going down the field and at least getting field goal attempts. Like, they're moving the ball. They're not, throwing a pick on the first series and then 0 quarterback rating with -1 yard passing. That hasn't been any other starting quarterback I've seen in the preseason. So should I, as a 49er fan, be a little bit worried? Yeah, I probably should. Plus, this guy hasn't played in over a year, really. I mean, he barely played last year. So he hasn't played football in quite a while, and he's got a lot of new guys on the team. So, Lloyd's right. Denver's defense is good. When you've got Chubb on one side rushing the quarterback and you got Von Miller on the other side, you don't have a whole lot of time if you're a quarterback to figure out where you're going to get rid of the ball. They're coming. Vic Fangio, who's the defensive coordinator for the Broncos, who's a very, very good defensive coordinator. He wasn't a great short-time head coach. He is a great defensive coordinator, and sometimes you just got to know your lane. That is his lane because he's one of the best defensive coordinators. He's got those 2 studs on the ends. Guess what? They're coming at your quarterback, bookending every play. He's not running. He might run Vaughn in the flat in a certain situation every once in a while, but basically every play they're trying to hit your quarterback. And they can. Like, they can get past any tackles in the league left or right on either side. So, but they just need to do better. The line needs to do better. Jimmy G needs to do better. He needs confidence. He obviously needs to work on timing with those receivers more. But yeah, it was super poor performance. And so it'll just be really interesting to see how he does at the start of the season.
Yeah, I'm still holding out hope because I said a couple of weeks ago, I think the 49ers are the sleeper team in the NFL this year. I expect them to do a lot better, and maybe he's still not solid. He's not as healthy as he needs to be, and he's not, doesn't have sure footing and getting behind his throws and just making errant passes. We'll see. I think they'll be fine. I'm going to hold out hope, and I'm not even a 49er fan. right? They're what, third in my list in the NFC West. All right, Cardinals or Rams, Cardinals, Cardinals, Rams, that kind of interchange for me. But then the 49ers, and sorry, Whitney, Seattle's at the bottom. So for me, and they'll probably be at the bottom of the NFC West this year. So right behind the 49ers. So so tell us about a little bit. I have recorded this stuff and I still haven't been able to get in and watch it. The Big Three. I mean, you were so, we talked about this earlier this week, and you were so excited about this, and just, I mean, and yeah, go ahead. You start with that, because go ahead.
I got to get my notes out. So much happened. I had to type some stuff up. There's just so much that I and I didn't get to watch all of it live, unfortunately. One of the great things about the Big Three is if you can't catch it live, all you have to do is type in basically on YouTube, Big Three week, whatever it was. So it was, week 9. If you type in week 9, you can basically see a summary of all the games. And so it'll be almost every scoring possession of that game, and then the other highlights that came from that game. But it'll be almost every single score in that game. And so you can watch a game that maybe takes a half an hour and 18 minutes, 16 minutes. So it's really cool. So if you can't catch it live, check it out on YouTube. It was the last week of regular season. There were a handful of teams that all needed to win for a chance to get in the playoffs. There's 12 teams in the league. Only 4 teams make the playoffs out of 12. So going into the week, there was a bunch of teams in the middle, just deadlock tied with the same record, who was going to win to get in the playoffs, and all these things. And there were some teams that you thought had a really great shot of clinching their playoffs. They were the favorite, some of them big favorites, and they blew it. And it was really fun to watch, because if you haven't also seen the Big Three, Ice Cube, he's the founder, CEO, creator of the Big Three, and he gets a lot of stars to come courtside. Almost every Big Three game is kind of like a Laker game, but with hip hop stars. So every city he goes to, you'll see stars around the court. It's half court. So, a lot of the stars take up a whole side of the court. He always sits by his wife, and then next to him, he usually has a bunch of other hip hop stars or television stars. LL Cool J is there all the time. He's been supporting it since the first season, but kind of to get going on what happened in the games is the Ball Hogs had not won a game all season long. They were 0-7, and they were playing, they played, who was it? They played the Spoiler. They played the Bivouacs. So if you're an ex-NBA fan or an NBA fan, Josh Smith, that used to play for the Hawks, high-flying dunker, good-sized guy, 6'10", spread the court out guy. Him and Will Bynum, really quick point guard that played for the Pistons and several other teams in the NBA. They played against each other. And if the Bivouacs would have won, they would have been in the playoffs. The Ball Hogs hadn't won a game all season. Guess what? The Ball Hogs won by 2 points. What's cool about the Big Three also is they play to 50. So first team to 25, then it's halftime. First team to 50, win by 2 points. Game's over. Xavier Silas, Big Three player of the week, had 22.7 rebounds. He's a guard. Hit the game-winning shot, 50-48. Just had the week of his life so far in the league. First one of the year, knocks out the Bivouacs and their chances to make the playoffs. Super exciting. Everyone's up, just going crazy because no one saw that coming.
I saw, if anybody's wondering, who's Chuck? And somebody asked me, I got a message on my phone. What's up with the Dax Jammer down in the corner instead of saying Chuck? And I was just feeling being someone different today. Dax Jammer, it was actually a name we considered for our second child, who is now Hayden. But we actually toyed around with this name. So I was just feeling something different today. And instead of putting Chuck in there, I was just trying to have a little fun. Dax Jammer sounds a lot cooler than Chuck, right? But then you look at Dave and like, who really, who knows Dave? Well, it seems like some basketball players kind of know you.
Oh, yeah. So this is another great thing about the Big Three. The Big Three is very fan friendly. They keep the ticket prices very respectable. They want you to be able to take your kids out. I know the first few seasons, they even had deals where if you bought an adult ticket, you got a free kids ticket to bring your kid out. There was one game, I think, in the first season, one of the players, I think it was maybe Rashard Lewis from the Three-Headed Monsters. He bought like, I don't know, 50 adult tickets so people could bring their kids. It's very youth oriented also. So they go into these cities. So this week they're going to New Orleans. One of the cool things is they don't just play in that city that day, they get there early. So they get there a few days early. They run youth camps with all the legends. So all the coaches for the Big Three are like former NBA players or Hall of Famers like Dr. J. You're telling me I get to go down and sit near courtside for like $100 and I'm close to Dr. J? That's amazing. Like, there's all these Hall of Fame coaches, really just phenomenal legends of the game that you get to be close with, interact with. They do meet and greets. Like I said, they have these youth camps a day or two before where the kids get Big Three youth jerseys and they play 3-on-3 and they learn about the game from some of the best, best to ever do it. So that's a really cool thing about the Big Three. And a lot of them are on Instagram. So right here, Gilbert Arenas, his handle, No Chill Gil, he is very active on Instagram. A lot of times, if you put his name, you put his handle like I did, at No Chill Gil, I just put something up. I have been heavy on the Big Three Instagram since the league started 3 years ago. And I make a lot of comments. I try to comment on every one of their posts and updates. And so I just put, he had a really tough season this year. It was the first year he ever played in it. His team went like 3-5. They had Lamar Odom on the team at the start of the year, but he got hurt, so he couldn't play. He had two really other good teammates, Royce White and Craig Smith, who are very good, players. They're bigger guys, but have great agility, great skill for their size. And they just didn't gel very well this first year. And Gilbert kind of was pumping on the brakes a little bit, and he admitted it. He said, he didn't really know what to expect or how hard to go. He didn't want to get hurt, and this is a lot physical league. They let you bang. They don't blow the whistle as much. It's kind of old school blacktop basketball.
Which is fun to watch.
Which is awesome. So, I just kind of said, hey, he kind of took a lump this year. Is he going to play next year? And he responded like, yeah, I am going to play next year. I'm just figuring things out in this league, but I'm going to be back. So that was awesome. And, I've had other people that are in the league comment on some of my stuff. I'm a little bit friendly with Alex Scales, who's on the Ghost Ballers, the team that's captained by Mike Bibby. They know each other from Phoenix. Mike Bibby coaches a high school basketball team in Phoenix that's very good in the nation. And Alex Scales is one of his friends, and they're on the same team this year. And so I get a little insider information from him and on his Instagram page. And then Mahmoud Abdul Rauf, who's been always one of my favorite players because he can just shoot the lights out. He was phenomenal with the Nuggets. If you get on YouTube, just put in Mahmoud Abdul Rauf Denver Nuggets and his highlights. Basically, he's called the Steph Curry before Steph Curry. He became Muslim, kind of got blackballed out of the league because of it silently. It wasn't a big story that got brought up. If it happened today, oh man, it'd be huge. Like everyone would be just slamming the NBA if that happened today. But back in the mid 90s, it kind of went under the radar. No one really pushed it or help prop him up and help support him. But he's a phenomenal player, phenomenal shooter, 50 years old, and he's commented on some of my things. He's one of the reasons I first started watching the Big Three. So the first year they had promises of Allen Iverson playing, and they had sure they can. And then
I couldn't. You can say that. I might try to talk it and see if Siri picks it up.
Just go on the Big Three website if you need to. Look at the roster. find out how to spell his name. He's on the Three-Headed Monsters. But basically, this guy's a phenomenal shooter, and he's 50 years old, and his team got into the playoffs. They got the 4th spot in the playoff. There was like 4 or 5 teams tied with a 4-4 record. And the way the tiebreaker works is point differential for the whole season. So, how much did you beat other teams by? How much did you get beat by? That point differential was the tiebreaker, and they won that out of 4 to 5 teams that had the same record to get the 4th spot. So I get to watch him in the playoffs this week in New Orleans, so I'm super psyched about that. And he responds to some of my comments. He likes them. And then, it's how great is it that there was 4 to 5 teams tied for the last playoff spot? That just goes to show you any team can win any week. It's very level playing field. Like I said, the Ball Hogs won their first game and knocked a potential playoff team out of the playoffs. So with one win, they played spoiler at the end of the year against the team. So
especially when their incentives are playoff based as well, as far as kind of what they get paid.
Oh yeah. So they get paid a little bit. They get their travel, I'm sure, some of it paid, and they get a little bit of stipend or whatever, and a little bit of salary. It's not a lot though. It's not enough to live off of, I would almost guarantee you. And so really what happens is that prize pool is at the end. So the champions get, a big old check to share amongst the teammates, which there's 6 players on the team. So you're cutting it 6 ways plus the coach, maybe an assistant coach. So that might be 8 people that you're cutting that check with, potentially. And so, yeah, they're all trying to go get that money. I mean, if you try to watch last year's championship game, the Power won. Coutinho Mobley hits the game-winning shot, and his whole team rushes the floor because they just won a pot of a couple $1 million to share between them, and they're super stoked. Like, that's cha-ching. Like, that shot was money, literally money in their pocket.
Money.
Yeah.
Right,
so
I'm gonna continue to I'm gonna continue to record and watch the playoffs, and I need to set some time aside on my weekends to do this. So we look, if we get fan requests, and if you have a request for a sport that you really like, that maybe is just outside the norm, that maybe, may not be as popular, kind of like Dave talks a lot about English League Soccer. Please let us know next week. I've got a fan request that I'm gonna do a story on, but you were really excited about MMA, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big weekend. I didn't know if I'd talk about it this week, but it's good we are because it just happened. It was last weekend. It was a really big weekend for MMA. So if you're an MMA fan, put it in the comments. Do you like MMA? Do you watch? A lot of times I only watch it if I've been invited to an MMA party. So I have a friend in Fontana, California that really likes MMA. He likes to throw MMA parties. And almost everyone I get, me and Whitney, my wife, we get an invite. Hey, come watch the fights. When I lived up in the Pacific Northwest, I had several friends that loved MMA. I had a handful of friends that participated as fighters in a semi-pro MMA. So I went and watched my friends live in the ring fighting MMA, some guys I grew up with even. So I know a little bit about it. I have followed it since the first UFC fight, UFC 1, which was crazy. I don't know if you're a follower of when it started, but when it started, it had no weight classes. It had no rounds. So basically, you could see a 400-pound guy fight a 170-pound guy for an hour and a half. And that was insane. I remember watching a fight like that where it was basically those guys matched up. And I thought, okay, if that big guy ever gets that smaller guy down on the ground and on top of him, that smaller guy is going to die. Like, he could potentially die. And that almost happened. That smaller guy did get taken down. He got 300-pound elbows to the side of the temple into the mat, and they drug him off on a stretcher. And I was like, I don't know where this is going, but this is crazy. So luckily, they figured out this isn't the way to go. and they changed it. And now they have weight classes, and they've had rounds for several years. But so Cormier lost this weekend. Big name fighter, heavyweight fight. His opponent had waited a little bit over a year to fight him. Actually ended up knocking, TKO, knocking him out in the fourth round. And so that was a big fight. And then the fight that I was really interested about was Nate Diaz. So Nate Diaz, if you're an MMA fan, you've probably heard of Nate Diaz. He's a badass. He does not care about being on TV. He does not care when he's interviewed. He does not care about any of that. He is a fighter. I'm pretty sure he lives in like the Sacramento area, like NorCal area, but he's there to fight. Like, he's a guy that would fight you in a bar. He would fight you in an alley. If you'd said something to his wife, he'd punch you in the face in a Walmart. This guy's a fighter. Like, he is skilled and he knows what to do. He's a great grappler. He's great on the ground. But he hasn't fought in 3 years, and he came out and won. He came out and won a unanimous decision, and he's a fan favorite for the people that really like the brawlers, the no-nonsense guys. He is one of the elite guys to be a fan of in the UFC if you like that kind of guy. He is not why am I losing his name right now? He is not the Irishman. He is not
Conor
the
McGregor?
former champ.
No.
Conor
No.
McGregor. No. He is 1000% the opposite of Conor McGregor. Like, Conor's doing all this stuff and doing all that. Nate Diaz is just sitting there like, dude, I'm just ready to punch you in your face. Like, he does not he is not a showboat. He does not care about any of it. He is there to fight and make money and try to win, and that's all he cares about. And he hadn't fought for several years, so a lot of people were really excited that are fans are his, and he won in a unanimous decision. So that was really cool. So I even had a friend that went to the fight with her husband, some friends I have that live down in Carlsbad, and they got down kind of by the floor even, and they got a picture with Dana White. She posted it on her Instagram, so that was cool to see.
Cool.
My friend got a picture with the CEO of UFC this weekend. So yeah, just let me know. Maybe we'll talk more about MMA. Like I said, I've watched a little bit. I'm not a super fan. I watch it here and there. If there's certain guys that I like that are in big fights, I'll watch it, but I don't watch every one of them. I don't keep up on it a ton. But maybe it's something I'll have to get into a little more.
I don't know. I wonder. Your knowledge is. You must not go to sleep at night and just watch sports. I mean, you're just flipping channels, watching literally every sport that's ever been created. You have at least some basic knowledge, more than the typical fan. I'd like to transition as we get close to wrapping up. It's very important that we get to our Play It Through Player of the Week. This is a segment that we do each week. Dave's organization, Play It Through, that celebrates people who have gone through adversity and challenges in their life and come out the other side for positivity. And so I'd like you to talk about your Play It Through Person of the Week.
Sure. So my Play It Through Person of the Week this week, his name is Wesley Hamilton. He's a 30-year-old man. He's a single dad. He lives in Kansas City, Missouri. If you don't know about Wesley, you can find a lot out about him on the internet. You can search YouTube, but I think the way that he was first kind of found out about, or what brought his popularity up, is he was actually featured. He was on the Netflix series Queer Eye. So it's a group of 5 gentlemen that will go in. Someone's been nominated to basically have a whole life makeover. These 5 gentlemen that go into basically the Fab Five, if you will, is what they're called on the show. They go in, and one helps them gives them a new hairstyle and teaches them about grooming. Another one helps, redesign their home. Another one helps them with their mental, what's been holding you back. What do you want in life? How can we get you forward? One helps them with nutrition and how to cook. And one teaches them about fashion, how to get dressed, and how do you want to portray yourself through clothing and things. So they went into Wesley's home. He was, when he was 24 years old, he was kind of living that kind of thug gangster life. Wasn't doing a lot with his life, kind of a heavier set dude, one of those dudes on the street. And there was an altercation where he got shot in the abdomen when he was 24 years old. That injury left him paralyzed. So from 24, he was paralyzed, and it's just amazing thing. If you can watch it, it's on season 4, episode 2 of Netflix of The Queer Eye. It tells his whole story, but basically, how inspirational is he? So basically, what he tells people is that his wheelchair has given him more power than he's ever had in his life before it, because it's helped him learn who he is. He's have to get through struggle and still be a, single father and learn how to do that all in a wheelchair. And it basically reinvented himself. And so what he does now, and some of the pictures Chuck is showing, is he competes in the National Physique Committee Wheelchair National. So he does bodybuilding. So he hadn't really worked out. He wasn't an athlete before or anything. But, since then, he really got into bodybuilding. One of those shows, he can go up a rope in his wheelchair. That's an extra like 35 to 40 pounds. He can do pull-ups in his wheelchair, so he doesn't let anything stop him. He goes out, he works hard, he loves weightlifting, he competes, and it's helped change his life. He goes out and gives very inspirational talks at schools and TED Talks even and other places since he's been featured. He has a organization called Disabled But Not Really. And so that's his organization. And so if you know anybody that needs inspiration that, it's going through the same we all play it through. So if someone's is there in a wheelchair and they're a little down, I would suggest you have them go look at some of this guy's stuff, because he's just very inspirational. He even in the episode on The Queer Eye, he met the man that shot him. It was maybe one of the most powerful show moments I've ever seen in my life watching television. He sat in a coffee shop right in front of the man that shot him and paralyzed him, and told the man, "You don't have to say you're sorry to me, because I'm better now than I was before you shot me." And I hope, and the guy that shot him did 5 to 6 years in jail. And the guy just said, I'm trying to be a better person too because of all this, that was a horrible thing. But he got to see him face to face, the guy that shot him and paralyzed him, and said, "You know what? I forgive you." I don't know if I could do that, but that was a very powerful scene in that show. So I would recommend anyone to see that, anyone to look up Wesley Hamilton, look at his story and how inspirational he is. And I hope he just keeps inspiring people, because he's absolutely everything that a play it through person should be.
That's an amazing story. I said it, I believe I said it last week. This is my favorite segment of the show. Just again, everybody has something, and how you're presenting these play it through individuals each week is amazing. And hopefully we can begin to get some of them on the show in the future. We'd love to chat with them. But Play It Through is an organization, a company that Dave has started. And I mean, this thing is going to go big. And you just pay attention, play it through. It's just going to continue to grow. And we look forward to each week having these athletes. So we only got a few minutes. I have one thing at the end that I'd like to share, but so what should people pay attention to this week? What should they watch?
Oh yeah, this week. Let me get my notes out. There's a lot of good stuff. Okay, this week for Major League Baseball, there's really only one to watch, and that is the Dodgers and Yankees. They start on Friday at 7:30 p.m. They both have the 2 best records in Major League Baseball. Yankees have 83 wins. The Dodgers have 82 wins of when I put this together like a day ago. So it's fairly accurate, but they're the top 2 teams in Major League Baseball. They'll be playing each other starting Friday throughout the weekend. You can catch on Saturday on Fox Sports 1 at 1 p.m. and Sunday on ESPN at 4 p.m. Major League Baseball. PGA Tour, it's their last tournament. So the PGA Championship, if you care about professional golf, you need to tune in this weekend because it's the championship. We'll find out who the champion is professional golf this weekend. That will be on the Golf Channel Thursday and Friday at 1 to 6 and Saturday on NBC 2:30 to 7 and Sunday from 1:30 to 6, all times Eastern. English Premier League. Woo! So I told you last week, big game, Tottenham against Manchester City, top 3 teams, right? I said, watch it. It's going to be great. It was great. They tied 2-2, 2-2. But guess who didn't tie? Liverpool. Ole, 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 ole. They won 2-1. They are tied at the top of the table, right, with Arsenal. So they're the number 1 team right now after 2 games, and they play Arsenal, who they're tied with. There's just a 0.4 differential between them. Same records, both 2-0, but they play this weekend. So Liverpool will win. They will be at the top all by themselves for the rest of the season and win the English Premier League Championship. Watch all NFL preseason games. They're on all weekend. Check out your local listings, see what games you want to watch. The starters will probably play most of the way through the third quarter. You can kind of see what's going to go on with your team this year. NCAA football starts this weekend.
That's what I'm looking forward to.
Miami plays against Florida. Florida's ranked number 8 in the preseason AP poll. That starts at 4 p.m. It's on ESPN. Arizona plays against Hawaii also that night at 7:30 on CBS Sports Network. The Little League World Series, check your local listings for times. I don't have times, but the Little League World Series, it's going to be this weekend. It's the games that matter. If you love the Little League World Series, watch it this weekend because all the main games are this weekend. Pro tennis, the U.S. Open, big tournament. That's this week, too, and this weekend. So if you're into tennis, watch the U.S. Open. It's one of their biggest tournaments every year. Big 3 playoffs is in New Orleans. That starts at 10 a.m., goes till noon. It's on CBS and CBS Sports. And that's it. That's what my watch this week and weekend is.
It's a busy weekend for you.
Yeah, and I won't watch any of it because I have family from out of town coming. So
coming in tomorrow.
I'll be DVR recording all these to watch them at night and not sleeping while I sleep next to my beautiful wife. I'll be watching my games I recorded.
So I wanted to end with, and I don't know how we'll transition into the actual end, but there was something I wanted to share. I didn't put it on our outline. I didn't really script it out, so I'm just going to kind of say it. You never know in life the day that you're going to be called to step up and help somebody by performing CPR. That day was today for me. During a ride this morning, a man had collapsed, and there were a few of us that performed CPR on the gentleman. My only message is just if you don't know how to perform CPR, get connected with the American Red Cross. Take a class. It's not difficult, but the methods have changed. I kind of saw it this morning with different individuals, and but learn the proper technique for CPR. Again, it's not that difficult. It's not about being a hero. It's just about being in a place, stepping up, and when no one else is available, and participating in trying to save someone's life. If you're here locally in Santa Clarita, one of our cycling buddies in our group posted today that even the Henry Mayo Clinic here has a CPR class for just $20. So just go to the Henry Mayo. You'll be able to find it. Just search for CPR class and get connected. And my only message is just make sure you know how to perform CPR. And if you're called upon it, just step up and participate. That's about that. Other than that, we are at our time limit. Dave, you were just amazing at you must go now and decompress for the next few days. And then start it all over again. So next week, I really thought this software worked well tonight. A little hiccup with the audio in the beginning, but we'll go back and watch it. But next week, we're kind of excited. I am going to work so that we're not only broadcasting to Facebook Live, but also YouTube and maybe one other platform. So we'll actually be simulcast, recast. We'll be live on at least 2 or 3 other networks, and next week. So thank you. Obviously to Lloyd, you were quite the participant tonight in joining with us and connecting. But please, in the comments, if there's a sport you like, let us know. If there's a beer you like, you want us to review it, let us know. We're happy to drink beer. So, and if you know of an organization or company, or an individual, organization, company that's sport minded, that would like to be on the show and join us to talk a little sports, talk about a cause, an event that they may have, just put them, get them connected with us. Share with us, we'll connect with them. But we want to have guests on the show and bring in, because this is your show. Obviously we have fun doing it, but we really want to connect with the guests and you, the fans. Yay, fans! All right. So anyway, any last words, Dave?
Just everyone have a great week. Like I said, be excited about NFL football. You get to see a lot of your favorite players actually play this week for the first time. And everyone have a great weekend. Cheers.
All right, everybody. Have a great week. Bye now.